So any questions on what we did yesterday? So just looking at a graph, you should be able to tell points when the derivative is 0. That's just horizontal tangent lines, which are high spots, low spots, flat spots. And points where the derivative is undefined, which might be points where there is no tangent line, like corners, cusps, discontinuities, or it might be actual spots where the graph was vertical for a second, in which case tangent line is vertical and it's undefined slope. Any questions on that stuff then? Okay, so on today's homework, you could actually do it right now if you wanted to. So I'm going to let you get right to it in a second. But they're just basically going to ask you questions about derivatives at a particular point. Like, for example, if I have a function that goes like this, they might give you like this x value right here, x equals 2 or something, and they'll ask you a question about the derivative at that point. Like, and it'll be multiple choice. Like they'll say, which of the following best describes the derivative at that point? F prime of 2 equals 0. F prime of 2 is positive. F prime of 2 is negative. Or F prime of 2 is undefined. So what would you say here?
Positive.
It's definitely positive, right? Because if you just like zoom into that, it looks like a positive slope, right?
Right.
A positive slope line. And so that's what the derivative is. It's the slope of the tangent line. So the answer would be B or whatever, okay? In other questions, they might even be a little bit more specific. Like they might say, one of the choices might be like F prime of 2 is between 0 and 1, or F prime of 2 is greater than 1, or something like that, in which case you have to look at like relative steepness. Is it steeper than like a slope of 1, or is it less steep than a slope of 1? This one would be kind of hard to tell, but it looks to me like this would be like a little bit bigger than a 1 slope. That looks like more than a 45 degree, kind of, to me, but it's a close call. But that's basically it. So if I look at this assignment, here's a typical problem. Like they give you like random squiggle graph like this, and in this case they're saying, which of the following best describes the derivative at 3? Okay, so at 3, if you look at 3, it looks to me like that's a horizontal tangent line spot. It flattens out for a second, so you'd say m is 0. That's all there is to it. If they had asked you the derivative at 0, you'd say there is no tangent line because that's a corner, right?
Right.
If they had asked you for the derivative at 5, you'd say undefined because there is a tangent line, but it's vertical. Get the idea?
Yeah.
That's the first part of the assignment, is just questions like that. The second part of the assignment is really similar, but this is the one where they ask you for a little more specificity. Like if they say the derivative at -1, well, that would still be 0. But let me go to a different problem. F prime of 6, that would be undefined. I'm trying to find one that's positive, but you have to gauge how positive it is. You know what I'm saying? 5.75. Okay, so here's one. At 5.75, if you look at the slope of the curve, like at that point, right? So if I take the tangent line at 5.75, which is here, is that slope greater than 1 or less than 1? Definitely greater than 1, right? An equal to 1 would be like a 45-degree angle, which would be like parallel to the main diagonal, like y equals x. This is definitely not parallel to that. It's definitely steeper than that. So you'd say m is greater than 1. That would be my choice right there. And that's the answer. So these are really easy questions. You just look at the graph and you're estimating the slope of the curve based on the graph. Now, before you put away all your stuff, though, we're actually having a test next week. So there's a test on Tuesday. So this is actually the last day of new material before the test. So let's just talk for a second about what we've done since the last test. Not a lot of stuff. Finding derivatives. So that's just using the limit formula, which is f prime of a limit as h goes to 0, f of a plus h minus f of a over h, using that formula. After that, we talked about equations of tangent lines. So instead of just finding the slope of the tangent line, you actually find its equation by finding a point and a slope and doing the point-slope formula. Okay. Then we did horizontal and vertical tangent lines yesterday. So that's just looking at a curve and being able to identify points, high points, low points, flat spots. That's where the derivative is 0, horizontal tangent line, and then vertical tangent lines, which is point of discontinuity or a corner or a cusp or a vertical tangent, an actual vertical tangent. And then today, which is just estimating derivatives from a graph. And that doesn't even have to be too close of an approximation. Like, we're not really finding actual values. You're just determining whether it's positive or negative or 0 or steeper than 1 or less steep than 1. That's basically it. That's what the whole test is going to be on. So Monday, we're going to do an extra credit review for the test. And then Tuesday's the test. And that's it. Any questions? Okay, so there won't be a recorded lesson or anything like that if you're not in school. Just do the review or do the test, depending which day it is.
And we still have to do those like computer science, right?
Correct. I don't know why that is the way it is. I think it has to do with their update somehow. It's like duplicated stuff, but hopefully it won't be like that from now on.
So for the final, this is like kind of off topic, but
Yeah.
are we gonna have another one of those like homework assignments where it's like a little bit from everything that we've done?
Yeah, I don't really know about the final yet. We're supposed to be told about that today. It was really unclear. Like, we were basically directed to give a final for people who like weren't passing for the year. And so it's really unclear as to whether there even has to be a final for everybody who did pass for the whole year, or whether we are allowed to give a final for people who are passing for the year. Like, the email almost made it sound like you are forbidden to give a final if everyone's passing, which is like crazy. But
Yeah.
so I don't know. I'm waiting to hear back.
Physics, I'm perfectly fine.
I'm waiting to hear back on clarification for all that stuff
Yeah.
before I spend any time on it. I don't want to like waste my time like doing stuff that then I'm like, I can't use this at all.
Right, yeah, that
So,
really makes
but
sense.
if there's a final, it'll be similar to our normal tests, but in chunks like that.
Right, yeah.
That's fine.
I just like that homework assignment before that like midterm thing
Yeah.
like really helped me like actually know what I was doing. So,
Yeah, good.
yeah.
Any other questions? All right, that's all I got for today. So, yeah, it's Friday. Let's just do a little assignment. That's it. Make sure you take notice of what's due this week too. There's